Welcome back to No Se Habla Taxes, the podcast where we talk about the money stuff that nobody warned you about when you started your agency. I'm Melissa Armstrong, CPA, fractional controller, and recovering revenue chaser. And yes, I said recovering because I have been guilty of exactly what we're going to talk about today. Season 2, baby, we made it. And I'm not starting it with fluff or fanfare. I'm starting it with a confession. Okay, here it is. I have watched agency owners, smart ones, experienced ones, pop up bottles over crossing $1 million in revenue, post about it, make it their entire personality for a whole quarter. And then 6 months later, they're calling me because they can't make payroll. $1 million in revenue and cannot make payroll. How does that happen? It happens more than you think. It happens because revenue is a vanity metric if you don't know what's underneath it. And nobody talks about this, not at the conferences, not in their Facebook groups, not in the highlight reels. We celebrate the top line like it's the whole story. Part of it is that instant gratification, the high that comes with it, right? But it's not the whole story. It's barely the first sentence. So today, we're going to talk about the revenue illusion, what it is, why it's so seductive, and what numbers you should actually be paying attention to. Let me paint you a picture. Agency owner, let's call her Maya. Maya runs a 10-person creative shop. She bills $1.2 million a year. She's got a full client roster, a nice looking office, and a team she's proud of. From the outside, Maya's got it made. From the inside, Maya is exhausted, underpaid, and 3 slow months away from a cash crisis. Here's what's happening. Maya's revenue was real, but her margins, not so much. She had 3 anchor clients who demanded constant scope creep, and Maya, because she's a people pleaser and frankly terrified of losing them, kept saying yes without adjusting the contract. She was delivering $180,000 worth of work on $120,000 engagements repeatedly. Her overhead had also crept up, right? More work means more staff, a bigger office, software subscriptions she forgot she was paying for. Nothing dramatic, really. Just a slow bloat that happens when revenue goes up and scrutiny goes down. And her cash flow was a total mess. She had clients paying net 60, sometimes net 90. Meanwhile, payroll would hit every 2 weeks without fail. Maya was essentially floating her clients' businesses with her own cash. Revenue, 1.2 million. Profit, much, much less. Cash in the bank on any given Tuesday, a horror story. The revenue was real. The health of that business was not. Okay, so let's break this down. There are 3 numbers that they tell you very different things about your business, and you need to understand all 3 of them. Those are revenue, profit, and cash flow. They're not the same thing. They do not move together, and confusing them is one of the most expensive mistakes a founder can make. Revenue is what you bill. It's the top of the line, is that instant high, goes on the invoice, is the beginning of the story. It's just not the end. Profit, it's what left after you paid for everything it took to deliver that work. Your team, your tools, your overhead. This is where you find out if the work was actually worth doing. Cash flow is when the money actually moves. You can be profitable on paper and still be broke in practice if your clients are slow to pay you and your expenses are fast. Maya's business had a revenue problem masking a margin problem, masking a cash flow problem. 3 layers. Her situation was compounding. And she only knew about the first one because that was the only number she was celebrating. Again, that instant high. That's what she was chasing. Here's the thing about agencies specifically, and this is important. Service businesses are uniquely vulnerable to the revenue illusion because your product is time and expertise. And time is very easy to give away without realizing that you're doing it. Every yes to scope creep, every project that runs long, every client you underpriced because you wanted the work. That is your margin walking out the door with a smile on its face, but you're left frowning. So, what should you be watching instead? A few things I care about with my clients: gross margin by client or project, not overall by client. Because I promise you, there is one client on your roster right now who is actively hurting your business and you're treating them like a gift. Your utilization rate. How much of your team's billable capacity is actually being billed? If you're paying for 40 hours and billing for 25, that gap is your problem. What are your days sales outstanding? How long does it take your clients to actually pay you? Because revenue recognized, it's not always revenue received. And then owner compensation. Are you actually paying yourself or are you the last one to get paid every month? If you are, that's not sustainable. That's not a business. That is a very, very stressful hobby. Here's what I want you to take away from this episode. Revenue milestones are worth celebrating. I'm not saying don't enjoy them because without revenue, there's not a business, right? But I'm saying don't let them be the only signal that you're paying attention to because a business with $500,000 in revenue and 30% margins is healthier than a business with $1.2 million in revenue and 8% in margin every single time. Smaller number, healthier business, founder who can actually sleep at night. So this week, I want you to pull one number you haven't been looking at. Pick one. Gross margin on your biggest client, your days of sales outstanding, your actual owner draw versus what you planned. Just one number. Because the truth is already living in your numbers. You just have to be willing to look. It's not that scary. I will be holding your hand emotionally from here. All right, that is it for today's episode of No Se Habla Taxes. If this hits close to home, good. Share it with the agency owner in your life who's been bragging about their revenue and avoiding their P&L. They need this more than you know. Subscribe wherever you listen. And if you've got a money moment you want me to dig into, a confessional of your own, a question that's been living rent-free in your head and waking you up at 2 a.m. in the morning, send it my way. The show notes have everything you need. I'm Melissa Armstrong. Don't let a pretty top line lie to you. The numbers don't lie, but they do hide. So let's go find them. Until next time.